the world is opening up, and we live in a time where men are also now allowed to be softer. And this gives us an opportunity to open up to this work. Because when we look at some spots which might be unpleasant in the beginning, we look at them and then we discover from where they are coming from. And when we discover from where they are coming from, we discover certain patterns. For example, in the experience I went through now in these sessions, there were all sorts of induced belief from the story of the parents on the male. For example, in one situation, you are not allowed to rest. You are not allowed to have fun. Because if you are having fun and if you are happy, it's not moral. So you have to do, and get going all the time.
And this is, by the way, if I may just interject, many women will resonate with this as well, because this is like this trauma goes across genders, that you're not allowed to rest. You just have to do. You're not allowed to have fun because your parent, I am stressed out. What I also heard, and specifically this one was even more prominent in men, was you're not allowed to have big emotions. Like you're angry, you're an aggressive boy, and that's not okay. So you go outside. Some of them are even kicked out of the house, or go there in your room, close the door, and come back when you're being the good kid again, when you're being the good boy, when you do not have that anger. And many of them were telling to me as well, before they started working with you then, in their one-on-one sessions, was that problems were not talked about at home. Those were very like homes where things are focused on logistics. So kids are getting the food, the dishes are getting washed, house is getting cleaned, laundry is getting washed, and homework is being written. But then there's no kind of emotional support. Like there's no talking about feelings, experiences. How was your day behind, like underneath? Yeah, it was good and stuff. And just toughen up, because as you were saying, they were not allowed to be soft because emotions are for weak and for women, and you're a man, you need to protect and just man up and manage it. So it's just like all of these cut off. It was causing them to feel like cold robots. They were getting emotionally numb whenever the emotions were taking over.
And it is basically the need of a child is to be able to stumble, make mistakes, allowed to be loud, to really express. And when a child, especially also here, and in one case, is sent away from the table because they were not eating in the right manner, getting out of the table or expressing something a little bit loud, so without food, waiting outside, immediately this feeling of punishment and not being cared and not being loved. And the interesting thing is that the child mind, and then as it grows on, is more and more, you are not worthwhile to be loved, for example. You are not worthwhile to be cared for. I have to care for myself,
Yeah.
And this then depends also, if you have a family where different sisters and brothers are there, and for example, the younger brother needed to be then taken care by the older children, but the older children also didn't want it really. So there was a conflict in itself. So the younger one retreated in himself and withdraw. And the mechanism then becomes what men are really, really good in, is an avoidance mechanism, is a mechanism just to escape. Oh, I don't want this situation, I want to have fun, I want to do something else. So we look for something else. And it is, especially in relationship, it is this momentum when difficulties come, and difficulties are coming. Then we have learned, okay, there are difficulties, I'm not looked at, I'm not cared for, so I just choose something else. And I do something else. And this the interesting thing is from our work that in a very healthy way, we conduct basically the man to his past impressions, for example, as a child. And then we allow something beautiful that suddenly we visualize the situation, a painful situation, standing alone in front of the door, and you are only allowed to come back in if you shut up, and or if you finish your plate when you don't want to eat the food. Yeah. So in a situation like this, standing there, left totally alone, so we do something interesting. We ask now, since we have the ability to understand the child mind, but now we are adults. So we ask the adult mind to step in the situation and say, hey guy, what do you need now? What is it actually in this situation? And maybe you as a child want to talk, or maybe not. And then suddenly we are just standing aside, and the atmosphere changes, and there starts to be a dialogue between my adult and my child. And there it becomes something really lovely, where then in a situation, it depends on the situation, we take now the child and we step up to the mother and we tell the mother, listen, mother, honestly, I don't like that you treat me like this. I don't feel loved. I don't feel cared for. And okay, you want me to eat the plate because in the war or in the time before, one wouldn't leave food on the plate. However, if I eat, I'm not happy. I'm unhealthy because I'm too full. So we play between the child mind and the rational mind. And the interesting thing is, suddenly a beautiful atmosphere is born between these two parts, which are alive in me, the adult and the child. And we start an integration which creates a different memory. So there's this beautiful sentence, which I like very much. It's never too late to have a good childhood.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is not only never too late, it is required to heal your childhood, even though the past is done. You can still heal it, and it's necessary if you want to have a healthy present and future. Because this is the key point that all of our men and women, they realize when they start working with us, is that all of those triggers, all of these situations when they would have previously exploded in anger or then collapsed inside and become emotionally numb and avoidant, all those triggers are a time machine from their childhood, and they do not have to have that emotionally frozen part of themselves, the kid in them, keep hijacking their adult being, because that's exactly what you just mentioned that I'm summarizing now. Once you realize it's a kid in you who needs help, so that you can stay being the adult and actually support yourself, your inner child, that's the moment when you take back control. You start managing your emotions rather than your past trauma managing you and hijacking you. So this is exactly the integration and wholeness. Yeah. I often call it as, unfortunately, not blaming our parents, not throwing them under the bus, but they created very long list of conditions for us to feel worthy of love. And so that's the opposite of unconditional love. And rather than for us now waiting for some other hero to save us as adults, or wishing that we had better childhood or better parents growing up, you actually realize that you can be your own hero. You can save yourself, even now as an adult.